Okay, bear with 1 second. No echo here. Okay, good. Check, check. All right, so there's, that should be able to hear me on YouTube now. Check, check. All right, I want to try one more thing here. Oh. Keep one eye on my trade over. Okay. Now we'll come over to the TikTok and see if we can get that. Yeah. Okay. Check, check. Over on TikTok. Did I lose sound over on TikTok? Spotty. All right. Check, check. Check. No, nothing. All right. Work to do. All right. So let's see here. The right either. Okay. Check, 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 check. Check, check. Oh, where did it go? It's going to have to go with the default and go from there. All right, Jerry. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. That should take care of that. There we go. Okie dokie. Okay, so let's try that. Still getting audio over on TikTok? Check over on TikTok. Still getting audio? Yeah. Good. All right, there we go. All right, so I don't have very much time this morning, but what I wanted to do is get on here and talk about this particular trade that I got into on silver. This is a micro silver trade. My notion on the entry here, down here at the bottom, was on a 4-hour support zone. So I'm going to come over here and take a look at that ideology for you real quick. So when this was coming down to support, the way that I've been tracking and monitoring my areas is I take large wicks like this, and you could do this on the 4-hour, 2-minute, 1-minute. It doesn't matter where you do it. The notion is is the same. So we've got a ton of sellers that were sitting up here in this area. When this candle was formed, we got a great big rejection off of this on the 4-hour. And then each time that we come to tap into this zone, we pull out and cannot continue higher. The freshly rolled green candle. Yeah. So the notion here is this was pulling back. This is kind of like a handle situation. So this pullback down to support, what I like to see here is it come down and check the bottom side of this zone that this wick created. And again, each time we came up, we just barely got to the mean, pulled back out, came back up on the next try, broke the mean but couldn't hold it, and now pulling back again. So the natural place for support is going to be the bottom side of this wick, which is where I took my entry. Now I got stopped out a couple of times on that entry because I like to protect a little bit too early, admittedly so. But this is what it looks like on the 2-minute side of things. So here's that giant zone right here from that 4-hour wick. So what I'm looking for here as this comes up into that wick area is for it to break and hold above the mean of that. Now, the trouble with this particular one is as it was breaking down, it was struggling to have a nice smooth transition to the downside. So the transition back up is going to be just as rocky, I would expect, unless we get a ton of volume coming in and we just start seeing it ripping to the upside. Now, we are at all-time highs here. I think we tapped out at almost 118. I think the top of this was 117.74. So what I'm looking for here is a recovery back up to the mean of that move. And that's my play. So I've got a couple of double tops here that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I'm only in with 2 micro contracts on silver. These are the micros again. And as you can see, this particular trade getting in on this double bottom area here. Let's see. I'm sorry, off of the support of the bottom side of this wick. Again, I got stopped out a couple of times. So my first entry, let me lock this zone real quick here so I don't move it. Yeah. So on my entry, I got stopped out a couple of different times because I protect a little bit too soon. So I got stopped out on this candle here as it came down. And then I got stopped out on this candle here as it came down again. So my next entry was off of this wick. So after this wick started pushing up, I waited for the breathe back on this 2-minute candle and then got in on that candle. And that was the decisive move to the upside that I was looking for. Now, the move back down, a lot of people would sell off at the top, scalper's mentality, so on and so forth. But what I'm trying to work on and trying to train myself to do more of is longer or higher time frame, longer trades. So I need to be able to sit through a lot of this pullback and resistance and so on and so forth to see if I can get the larger move out of all of this consolidation. This is only consolidation right here, what we're seeing. So right now, the biggest thing I'm looking for is higher lows. So each time it pulls back, what do the lows look like? Where's their where's their bottom? How is that actually acting with respect to the pace of the trade? Where is it going? So on and so forth. So as this pulls back, I'll turn the indicators back on so you can see this. As this pulls back, we are in a counter trend move to the upside. And we have had a color change on the EWO, but the EWO flattened out and is not really moving to the upside as much as I'd like. Not a huge deal. Again, I'm in it for the longer play. I'm looking for the higher lows. So this next low, what I would likely chance to see here is where would this low actually bottom out? Here we go. So where would this low likely bottom out? Well, take the indicators off. The first thing I'm going to look at is this low here, which is a response to the support area from this wick here. So this center wick is what I was looking for on this last pullback. I was looking for it to find its support here and get another bounce. Now, we didn't quite make it up to the high like I would have liked, but we are staying relatively tall on the overall move from the buy position and our last low. So again, here, as this fights through all of the structure and indicator, lagging indicators here, we've got all this structure over here that we're going to be fighting through. For instance, this low here, you can see that we came up into this area, broke out of it, right back into this range, and we found support off the bottom side of that range and are now attacking the top side of it again. So it's going to be extremely important for this in this short term to break and hold above what is that? 112,365. Hey, Rogue Ranger, good to see you. Good morning, Kyle, over there on the YouTubes. Belair. Hope I'm not murderizing the names. Rail, good to see you. And Jerry, of course, always nice to see you, my man. So what we're looking for here is to break this 112, what was it, 365 to the upside? Yep, 112, 365 to the upside. So once we can break and hold this, then we've got our next move, created our low, found our support, got our next push up. So lots of sellers sitting up here on this particular area where we sold off pretty handily. Now, when I was watching this come up into this, make its move up, the first thing I was thinking of is this really has to break this this minor double top here. And the reason why I was looking at this area was simply because of this wick right here. So that wick created a zone that I like to watch as we get these V-shaped recoveries and these V-shaped reversals happen fairly quickly. So I tend to watch the center candle wick and body to see where I can find resistance. But again, we're coming up into this key level, which is 112.71, which is where we were getting all of this rejection and support from before. So was I expecting some level of rejection up there? Yes, I was. Absolutely. Again, I'm not in this for the quick scalp. I'm in this for the longer play. So I have to be able to sit through some of this pullback and jostling around, because these are the moves that I like to see. Nice big pop out of support. And if I turn that zone back on, you'll see that we broke that, the top of that zone right here at 112.365. Nice pop off of the 9, and we can see now that the 9, 21, and 55 are all bunched up together. Now, the beautiful part about this, that the 200 and VWAP are way up here, so I don't have to worry about those as far as rejection areas just yet. Tim over on YouTube. When does this come on so I can watch it? Okay. I'm going to try and come on anywhere between 5 and 6. It seems to be when people are waking up and doing their morning stuff. So anywhere between 5 and 6, and then I'll run for about an hour to an hour and a half typically. Oh yeah. So I've got my screen set up a little bit differently than others do. Yeah, so Tim over on YouTube, we do 9 a.m. We start streaming live at 9 a.m. and sometimes we'll hold the stream longer if we've got enough moderators to get into the restream, because we do the restream in the morning. And then we've got Mark at 2 o'clock p.m. EST. Dawn at 4 p.m. EST. Mark does the futures. Dawn does the aftermarket show, which is a collection of different strategies, mentalities, trading mentalities, so on and so forth. Yeah, you're very welcome, Tim. Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Please make sure you like, share, and follow each of the streams if you've got them. Share them out to your socials. It helps us get the word out. Try and get more people into the community to get them away from their 9-to-5s as much as possible. Oh yeah, Kyle, the Diamond membership, that's the way to go for sure. Gotcha. Do I add in or stay with what I started with? Well, Rogue Ranger, I tend to just stick with the one I brought to the dance, as Mark would say. I play around with it in practice, and this is in my practice account on my live cash account. So my live cash account's not quite big enough yet to trade micro silver, not because of the margin, but because of the swings that it tends to have. And you can see on 2 micro contracts, you know, if I were to move this to ticks, we're 227 ticks up, and that's about 2200 and 2380 now. The micro silver moves pretty quickly, and it has an E-mini sized a margin requirement of $500 through Trade-Evade. So can I handle that on my account? Yes, I can. But my account is small enough that if I were to get a pullback based off of the ATR right now on the 2 minutes 50 ticks on micro silver as a loss would be catastrophic to my account. So I practice for the trade, and then I trade less volatile or smaller payout type items in the micros. And this is still micro silver. Thanks, Jerry. I appreciate it. Okay, I usually watch Coach at 9, and you're welcome here. Yeah, until I can. Thank you, everyone, for your support on the TikTok. I really appreciate your time. We are trying to get this channel built back up. We've had some shadow banning and some other things going on, and we're just trying to get people more involved and asking questions. So back to your question, Rogue. Do I add in on trades? I do. If it's relatively close to my buy position, one of the places that I could have added in would have been right here at this low that it created on this pullback. The challenge there is once you do that, it will then increase or raise your buy position, and you will DCA into, if I did it equal contracts, it will DCA me into this area here, which then, raises my overall buy position and risk for pullbacks and so on. Now, on those contracts that you add in, are you getting additional value? Absolutely, you are, 100%. The problem with that is that if this were to turn back around and I wanted to sell off a contract or two on the pullback, it would be selling off my lower position down here, okay, and not the position up here, because it trades on FIFO, first in, first out. So that being the case, it would sell off my first position before it would sell off my add-in position, which would then move my add-in position up here and change my overall entry, and then also expose me to more risk if this were to come down any further. So I tend not to, in my live trades, in my live cash trades, I tend not to add in, because adding in it's a certain level of risk. I'd rather just let the trade play out and do its thing in that respect. Great question. Now, is this an EWO entry? No, this is a support bounce entry. What I was looking for here on the 4 hour, and I'll pull on my multi-chart that I have on another screen here. What I was looking for on the 4 hour right here, so on the 4 hour chart, what I was looking to do was take the bounce off of the support area, which was right here. So consequently, the 9 was right there. But the major level of support is the bottom side of this range, which is 111,335. And again, that is this massive seller's wick that we have here from a couple of days ago. So as this was pulling back, I was looking at this as an opportunity, as a handle, like a handle reduction, like you would see in a cup and handle scenario. So this was a pullback down to support, and I wanted to take the support bounce off of the bottom side of this channel, because more times than not, on the lower time frames, I watch this happen all the time, and I train with our membership on this kind of move, that once it gets to the mean of this move, if it can't break and hold the mean, as you can see, we're at the top of the trend channel, also on the 4 hour, so a rejection here was not a surprise. But as it was coming back down, our last 4 hour candle was all selling, with some minor buying back up, which is why we got this buyer's wick here. Now, from there, we continued to sell off until we came down to find support. And this looks like a relatively solid support bounce off of the 9 and the bottom of this range. That was my trade plan to get into the trade. And now that I'm in it, I'm monitoring other time frames and watching for potential resistance areas with respect to that. The other thing I noticed when I was looking at this, earlier is that we are on the 15-minute. We are sitting on the 200, and we got a nice 200 bounce, 200 MA bounce off of that. Now on the lower time frames, the 200 is going to be in a different location. On the 5-minute and the 1 hour, the first thing I notice about the 200 is that it is in a large uptrend. So it is actually moving up. And the beautiful part about that is if the 200 is moving up, that's the last 200 candles on average moving in the direction of my current trade. So I like that for Confluence. Now you can see here, we're getting some sell-off again, or getting some resistance. On the 5-minute, we're moving up. We're respecting the 9 quite handily. And we do have the 921 cross here on the 5-minute, but we are at the top of the trend channel, which we could get rejection, and the 5-minute is in a downtrend. However, the overall move that I was looking for off of the 4-hour seems to be relatively strong. So I'm looking for this to at least get to previous day high at 113.16 before we see any real heavy rejection. But watching very closely, you can see that we're starting to get a little bit of pullback. Now, what does that look like on the 2-minute? Back to my other page here. And this is what it looks like on the 2-minute. Now, I had a line snapped here at 112.710. The reason being for that, again, was the bottom side of this center candle right here. I was looking for this to break this minor double top, which is also the top of this wick right here. So looking again for support. Here we are coming down. We've got a wick bottom all the way down to the 55, and we are still finding support. So here, yet again, we have a low, higher low, higher low, higher low, and yet this didn't really come down to a low, but we did find support, and this is the lowest low in this transition down. So as long as we are staying and maintaining this higher low structure, we could draw a trend line right here. I'm not trying to capture any of this over here. I'm looking at the bottom 2 lows right here, and I'm capturing the bodies. You want the bodies, not the wicks, okay? So some folks are talking about you want to snap the wicks. No, you want the bodies, because the bodies are where price either rested or started. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate your support. Over on the YouTube. So does anyone have any questions specific to this? Yeah, it's still picking up a lot of background noise, Mark. I tried using the VB cable to move it over, and it's not quite working, but I do have my mic on a boom arm now, so that should help a little bit with some of the background noise on TikTok anyway. So here we are in an uptrend, and again, talking about the higher lows, we are making higher lows. We are in a counter trend entry off of support. This was not an EWO entry. This was a scalp entry off of support. Here's the EWO entry for those of you that are interested. This would have been rather precarious to be in for the second, third, and fourth candles or so, as this would have pulled back way below your buy position. Which is why I typically don't like to do EWO entries in a counter trend scenario. I like to see the trend flip, and then I'll look for a re-entry if I miss the EWO entry. And re-entries, when we're talking about those kinds of things, that would be pullback entries. So if this EWO did fail and I took the scalp up here, treated it like a scalp, because most more times than not, an EWO entry counter trend will turn into a scalp unless you really get a nice runner. So I would have taken the profit here on the first candle because it didn't start on the shoulder of the previous, and we got a relatively hard pullback into this volume candle here. Now, the reason why I would have probably scalped this and exited here is to see this wick come down more than 50% of this candle would have been very challenging for me to sit through and watch that melt down even further, because more times than not, when I see heavy pulls or heavy retests of the previous candle like this, it typically means that there's weakness up here or there's a fair amount of resistance, and it's going to pull back harder. So when I start to see this thing break below 50% of the previous candle, especially a volume candle like this, that tells me that there's weakness up here, and I'll best just to either shave or get out of the trade completely. Now, that EWO entry, you can see down here on the volume bars, or on the bars in the EWO scanner, they peaked up and then dropped down and flattened out. Well, here's your flattened out all the way here, and then we finally get a nice volume move to the upside, and that's what I was waiting for. This is the move I was most excited for. So now I've got two contracts. I can move my stops. I've got my stops split, by the way, so that I can manage them individually. I use for beard care, soap. I've got some oil that I use, well, but primarily just keep it clean. What's my checklist procedure every day morning before any trades? D-Rock, I come in and I look at higher time frame over on the TikToks. I come in and I do the higher time frame analysis starting on the 4 hour. I might look at it daily, but for the most part, the ones that I watch, I'm pretty up on a day to day. So I take a look at where we settled out on the 4 hour over the Asian session in the beginning of London. And then I look for entry. I look for opportunities. And in this particular case, I was looking at the 4 hour right away, and I saw that we were coming down to support right here on this wick from a couple of days ago. The bottom side of this support, we were coming down to that, and I've been watching charts long enough that I see this happen day in and day out. Every single day I see this come up to the mean, reject, come down to the bottom side of the range, find support. Now the next area of support on the 4 hour or rejection area that I'm looking at is right here. This was our last high prior to making the move up. This was the double top that we needed to break. And again, that's at 113,595. Now that's a little bit higher than previous day high, which is right here at 113.16, which we just broke. So again, I've got within this range, I've got this wick top here that is the highest, and this was the sell-off in that particular candle on the 4 hour. So this entire range is going to act like support and resistance. Well, you can see that we got a little bit of support bounce off of this one. We broke down through the range, found our support off the bottom side of the higher, or the longer range here, right back up into this area. Now, am I expecting resistance up here? Of course I am. I'm coming up to the bottom side of this candle here, which is basically right just above that range at 113,475. So as this continues to climb, I'm going to be watching on the lower time frame what's going to be happening. Now, the 113.57, yeah, so that's where VWAP is. So the top side of this range right here, 113.57 on the 4 hour, right where VWAP is on the 2 minute. So am I expecting resistance up here? Oh yeah, bet. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, thank you for the belated. I appreciate that. So I've got 2 micro contracts running off of a 4-hour support zone or support area bounce. Okay, I've got higher lows being formed. I now have, for the first time since we made this high over here at 7 o'clock, I now have my next high. So we are now making higher lows and higher highs. Trend is going to change a little bit. You can see the 2-minute trend, although down, is starting to flatten out a little bit. It's not as drastic as it was before. And now I'm just watching each candle and how it responds to the indicators on the move up. Also keeping an eye on my higher time frame stuff over here on my multi-chart, which I have set in trading view for 5-minute, 15, 1 hour, and 4 hour. So this gives me a little bit of a bird's eye view of some of the things that I could be running into as far as support and resistance. Over here on the 1 hour, if I take a look at my 1 hour candle, look at where we're coming up into right now. On the 1 hour, we're now starting to break, and I've got a wick top over here on the 1 hour that we're challenging right now at 113.55. This is the top of the wick that I just marked out before on the 4 hour. So you see how all of this is now starting to come to play. It's all connected. So the more you understand market structure on higher time frames, the easier it becomes to stay in or make trading decisions on the lower time frame. Where to look for entry, potential exits, shed points, so on and so forth. So I have a multi-chart typically when I'm trading that I watch on another screen. Okay, so there's our VWAP rejection on the 5-minute. Still staying relatively tall. We came back down and wicked right down to previous day high at 113.16 and turning green again. So the momentum is definitely to the upside. Oh, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. It's coming in, but that wasn't. Good to see you, Nettie. Welcome back. Thanks, Ronald. I appreciate that. As always, thank you everyone for your support. Always appreciated. D-Rock, another thing that I do is a mental checklist every day. So if I'm in the right frame of mind and I've got some clarity on the charts in the market, then I will do live trading that day. But more times than not, if I'm not feeling it, I'll just practice, get in some training. Okay. So really strong entry here off of the bottom of that support bounce on the 4 hour. Now, again, I did get stopped out. Got stopped out on this move. Then I got in again, and I trailed a little bit too closely on this candle. Got stopped out again. Then I finally saw this come down, and it did not make the lower low. This one move here made a lower low from previous, but this one did not. Right there, that higher low is what told me that we could see a push to the upside. Finally get that 4 hour support area bounce. And as you can see, we are now almost $5,000 up on 2 micro contracts in silver on a 4 hour support area bounce. Sitting through all of this drawdown, this pullback here, not drawdown, but pullback. This was pretty uncomfortable to see happen, but the more I've exposed myself to these, the easier they get, because the first thing I was looking for was, is it going to find support off of this area right here? Okay, and again, I'm looking at this wick top right there. Okay, I've got equal highs on these two candles, or on these two wicks from the green and the gray, which would be a red for most others. But I was looking for it to support here. So if it was going to find support, it was likely going to be in this area. And sure enough, we came down to the mean, found support, great big buyer's wick on the move back up. Couldn't quite make the decision that this was the move to make yet. Came back down, retested that support, but really getting down into the nitty gritty of it, it made a higher high. Didn't test the low, and it didn't come down here and test the bottom side of that range. And we had a nice big buyer's wick again off of that support. So, do I watch candles? Absolutely. I watch every micro movement of them. Now, do I need to be watching candles that tightly now that I'm in this super strong position at the bottom of the range? And we're getting this wonderful support bounce off of that area? Yeah, I do. Because every time it moves higher, I'm looking at where's the 9. And in this particular case, I've got the 200 and VWAP. Now the 200 here is starting to kind of curl over, right? So that tells me that the downtrend for the last 200 candles is now starting to slow down. Awesome. That's a pretty big compliment coming from Richard. I appreciate that very much. Over on TikTok, Mark says, Richard said the newsletter big picture section was dead on and fantastic. Said thank you. You bet. I'm glad you guys find it useful. What was the overnight margin requirement per contract? Well, Kyle, that's a great question, and it depends on your broker. If you are trading in Tradeovate, your overnight margin is the same as your intraday margin. They don't change. All 23 hours of the trading session, your overall margin for Tradeovate on micro silver will be $500 per contract. So for $1,000 in margin right now, each of these contracts are worth about $2,600, $2,700. And there's absolutely no reason to sell off either one of them, right? We've got a massive move to the upside. We now have broken the outside of the upper band of the channel. We've broken VWAP. We've come down and retested VWAP with the next candle on another nice support bounce off of VWAP again, and now coming up and testing pre-market high at 114.117 or 114.17. So I could quite literally just let this thing run all day at this point. I've got my stop below the lowest low before the next move, large move to the upside. So yeah, I didn't have a ton of time to get on and do the live this morning, working on sound and some other things, trying to get the quality back up there. But this was such a great entry criteria that we don't often see a ton of explained live. I wanted to make sure that those that were going to pop in could see some of the things that we watch in our community and why we take some of the trades we take. So Kyle, if this were in Webull, let me pull up Webull because I don't actually have my L2 up. Did all this trading without an L2, by the way, just based off of structure. Well, there's the L2 already on silver. And here we are at pre-market high at 114.235. And we're still seeing interest to bring this up. Now, this was a relatively large volume candle to the upside. I know that I've got support and resistance from this wick on the 2-minute over here. That thick. Okay, so as this broke through that, we got a nice handy candle all the way up through that, nice volume candle to the upside. We are sitting on this double top right now. Let me use my hot. So am I getting nervous about this double top? Well, no, I'm way down here. My stop's way down here. I can let this thing breathe as much as it wants to, as long as the continued momentum is still to the upside. So what am I going to be looking for support off of this candle if it needs to pull back? Well, the top of this range, 113.86. Why? Because it's the top of this wick. This was the low that we created before the high or the dump. So this right here is going to be very important to me to make sure that we maintain, now that we're above it, that we maintain strength above it. And if we have to break down and find support lower, then it would be the lower side of that range at 113.535, which consequently is the middle of this W pattern that we have just created. Okay, so if we are going to stand a relatively healthy pullback, this thing could pull back all the way to 113.67 if it wanted to fulfill the actual W pattern. Holy smokes, you guys are killing it over there on TikTok. 36K in likes. Nice work. Thank you very much. All right, so here comes that pull right off of the double top. Now, where's the 9? Right down here in VWAP. Okay, so I turn all this stuff back on, and right out of the gate, I can see that my support is now climbing up into this range. And if I don't find support off the top of the range, I could look for support off the middle, which is 113.70. Then all the way down to the bottom side of the range, which is 113.535. Comes the pull. Yeah, Kyle, the Tradevate's great for that. They've got extremely attractive margin rates all 23 hours of the trading session. Over on Webull, sorry, I was actually getting to that, wasn't I? Over on Webull, margin rate for micro silver, outside of the trading session, the New York trading session, right now is $10,490.70. Your maintenance margin to hold it during that 1 hour of close. Now we just broke VWAP to the downside. Or now underneath the bottom side of that range, pulling back pretty handily. So again, looking for support down here at 112.911. But the intraday margin rate for micro silver is $1,573.61. So that would be 3 times what you would need over on Tradeovate. Not to mention the fact that I'm a lifetime member over on Tradeovate, and the fee structure that I'm now awarded or afforded keeps my fees cheaper than Webull as well. So the fee on micro silver, I'm going to log into my Webull account here. The fee on micro silver both ways is $2.78. Well, over on Tradeovate with a lifetime membership, I have a fee structure of $1.30 in and out, so a total of $2.60. Oh, look at that get bought up of that. So that's how they thank you. Silly day. But that's how the fee structure works over on Webull, along with your intraday margin rates and your initial margin rates. So over on Tradeovate, On Tradeovate, you don't have the margin requirements that you do in other brokers. 43,000. You guys are smashing it. Thank you all for the support. This is great. So here we are. We broke the bottom side of that zone. We came down, found support off of the middle, or off of the last low, basically. Came pretty close to the last low. Right down here, or last high, rather, I should say, 112,915. Looking for a continuation to the upside as we got to break back up into this wick top zone again. And break above the VWAP and above the 9. There's a lot of stuff going on up here. So do I expect this to happen quickly? I would like it to happen quickly. That'd be cool, but no, it's likely going to struggle here. And what I'm really looking at, turn all this other stuff off here. What's our overall move? Okay, so from our lowest, from our highest high to our lowest low, this out. From our very top to our very low, look at where we're at. Right, smack in the middle, fighting with the mean of the overall move. We have to break and hold above this mean in order to get a continuation to the upside. If we cannot break and hold above this mean and stay above it, then our continuation to the upside is likely waning and we might see a further pull back. But this buyer's wick here and this candle to the upside, this tells me that we do have some level of interest to get this thing back up here. The trick is it going to do it? Now, overall, I'm interested to just let these contracts ride. We've got the 2-minute trend change, right? So we were in a downtrend, and thanks to this move to the upside, our trend has now shifted. We are now in an uptrend on the 2-minute time frame. Now, do I expect this to break and hold VWAP the second time around? It may or may not. It may sit here, come down. It might come all the way down to the middle of the trend channel at 112,735 if it has to find more support. But we do have the 21 almost crossing the 200 now, so that's positive. The 200 is still starting to flatten out, which is also good. Most importantly, and the thing that I'm looking at the most, are these massive buyer's wicks right here. That tells me that the buyers really do want to keep this thing up, and that all this was profit taking. So all you people out there trading silver, stop taking your profits. Let it go higher. Now, if I were actually managing this for EWO or anything else like that, this pullback right here would have been a shed point. And this pullback here would have been a shed point. But our entry to the EWO being right here on this candle, this probably would have been a, I see this, I'm out, I'm going to wait for a further support bounce before I get in again. And you can see that when it did get its support off of this wick area here, that was the last time it checked in that low. $50K, you guys go. Awesome job. Any questions out there on the TikTok or the YouTubes or anybody else? Anybody over on Kick? Love it, love it, love it. I am going to have to bow out here in a second. We do have Coach coming up here at 9 o'clock, I believe. But I'll be updating our membership on the future side. Hey, vegan. On the future side with how this trade progresses throughout the day. So do I trade based on chart patterns or do I follow price action / liquidity sweeps? No, I don't do liquidity sweeps. We don't use that kind of terminology in our area. We use support and resistance. So when I was my entry in this particular case was a structure bounce. So this is based off of the 4-hour entry right here. Where I was looking for the structure right there. This giant wick here creates a zone. And that zone is what I watch. Now on the higher time frames, this is an absolute ton of money. You know, you make moves in this on a higher time frame, that's a lot of money. So what I look for the higher time frames is where is the price action currently and where could it potentially be going? And then I will either wait for it to get there or I will I'll trade it down to that position if I've got clean entries on the lower time frames. But in this particular case, my timing when I got into the chart and I saw where price action was kind of a great happenstance because it was quite literally right on support. And as soon as I recognized that, I saw that in about 1.0 seconds. I said, this could be a really nice bounce. So I got into the trade on the lower time frame and took a couple of stop outs, all positive. I haven't had any negative trades yet. But I took a couple of stop outs on the first move up, second move up, and then finally on the third, when it created that higher low, that was my entry. There it went. And I can sit through all of this. This is no big deal for me to sit through this because I have such a strong entry. I don't actually watch spot silver. I stick to the futures tickers. I know that there's several individuals that will trade spot silver, which is pure price. But I prefer the future side of it. And what I look for on the futures, silver in particular, is just structure. Show me where I'm getting support. Show me where I'm getting resistance. Now that move down from the pre-market high of 114.235, actually created a pre-market high because we're still technically in pre-market. But this move down here on the overall contract value of the two contracts that I had here, that was over $1,000 move. So if you're watching your P&L and not managing your trade, I only have the P&L up here so that people can see what the value is. Normally, I don't even have this up here. My trades will look like this. Nothing, just the contracts. Because I don't need to know. If I want to know, I can pull up my P&L down here and see it down there. But more times than not, I don't want to know. I want to trade the trade. I want to manage my trade. I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to what's going on up here. But I turn that on so that other people can see, you know, what the value of these kinds of trades are. Hey, PMR over on YouTube. Good to see you. Yeah, you're welcome, Tim. Always appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So as you can see on the last pullback, no big deal. We created a new high or a higher low, just as our trend would suggest we would need to see. Price action is not always just going to go straight up, 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 and then pull back nice and soft, right? We're going to have these ups and downs and ups and downs and zigzags, right? So as price makes a new high, it'll make a new low. It'll make an effort to make a new high, make a new low, make an effort to make a new high, challenging old highs, see if we can break these, and then keep moving up as we continue. So seeing this and the great support that we found off a previous day high at 113.116 gives me confidence that we're still moving in the right direction. Now, I want to make sure that we're getting a good, solid move to the upside, and we seem to be waning here. But we are at resistance, 114.235, and the top of the trend channel again. So I am still expecting, and we're not that far away from VWAP yet. I am still expecting this thing to try and find its legs before it makes its final move up higher. Now, over here on the higher time frames, we have hiccups. On the higher time frames, we are outside of the trend channel on the 5-minute. But look here at all of the chop that we need to break through, right? All of this stuff here, we need to break up through to get to this high. Well, throughout that structure, where am I going to find my likely rejection areas? Let's tap into that real quick. I see resistance here. And then we've got our double top up there, but prior to that, I've got a lot of bodies and everything kind of closing around this area. Actually, let's do this. This is your 5-minute resistance right here. That's what we need to break through. Why is that? This was the last high before it made its move to the upside, and it created lower highs on the way back down. But this wick selling right here, I'm watching that very closely. And you can see that we've come up, almost hit the mean of it, pulled out, came down, found support off of the previous day high, made our next move up, and now we're getting the bottom side of this at 114.10. If we're going to struggle breaking back up into this range where we had this consolidation before, chances are we might show weakness up here. It might take us a while to break through it if we're going to have the continued move to the upside. But if it's going to reject up here, then it's either going to do it in this area or it could do it here off of this double top at 115.095 to 114.855. Mark says I get rejected all the time. You should work on that. So that's what I'm looking for on the 5-minute. You can see that the move up on the 5 minutes are relatively healthy. A couple of pullbacks. The pullbacks on the higher time frames don't look as daunting as they do on the lower time frame. I'll tell you that for sure. All right, so there's our move up. Let's see if we can recapture this area. Then on the 15-minute, you can see that we're basically doing the same thing, right? We're struggling to get past this high, which we had all this consolidation right here. So if we can manage to break and hold above that, then we might actually be able to take out the annual high of 117,745-ish. Good question over on the YT. David does not stream, and we do not have a separate chat for the live Apple trading. The all of that chat happens in the VIP chat. So if you are in the VIP chat, that's where you're going to get all of that live breakdown and breakthrough, or breakdown and education. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you posting that. Thank you. We do have a new channel for our membership, the live VIP chat. That chat is specific to those VIP members that like to trade pre-market. You can get in there and share specific pre-market stuff. How do I handle false breakouts or sudden reversals? It depends on where my buy position is, or my sell position, you know, which direction I'm actually going in. So for me, on the 15-minute, we are coming up to the center of the trend channel, which is right at almost the top at 115.070. I'd be looking for some level of rejection there, and then also take a look at here, and then I'll finish the response. Here we are in the 4-hour, and we're coming up right to the mean of that overall move, right? So here's the move that I was talking about. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see it challenge this. I'm going to be watching very, very closely for a heavy rejection up here. If we don't get a heavy rejection up here, then the upside move is confirmed, and we might see more on the way back up. So 114,565 to the upside is what I'm really, really interested in seeing a break and hold of. So it depends on my buy position. And whether or not I'm committed to the overall trading plan, which in this particular case, I am now getting to the very top end of where I would consider this run to be. If it's going to stop or pull back and reverse, it would likely be here at the mean of that overall move. So come back over to the 2-minute, and there's the top of the trend channel and that area that I was watching very closely. Now, if we can break and hold above all of this, then we've got this double top, which is kind of a double top area because we've got all of this hanging out here. That would be the next impediment, real impediment to the move up. But I'm watching very closely this area right now because this is the mean of that 4-hour move, which is what I based my trade plan off of in general, was to take that bounce off of support up into the 4-hour mean, see if we can continue to the upside. So false breakouts and sudden reversals. Yeah, they're uncomfortable. And if you're not keen to seeing them happen on a regular basis, then yeah, they can be quite daunting. Watch. Mark says we have a live news conference. Do we have any? All right, so let's check that. So at 8:30, we got news, typically. Canada's interest rates and monetary policy is coming out at 9:45. Nothing at 8 o'clock this morning. We got crude oil imports, stocks, gasoline. So we've got some energy news here at 10:30. Get a bill auction at 11:30. Ooh, we got Fed interest rate. That's going to be high impact at 2 o'clock and 2:30. So we've got FOMC today. Papa Todd. No, I don't think you are. Yeah, exactly right. I haven't decided yet. Stay focused on the chart. It's L to 5240. Or what that is, Zoltan. I'm guessing you're talking about gold. This is silver. So here's our next pullback to be expected. Again, this is the rejection off of the mean of the 4-hour area that I've been watching. Broke your finger. So on the 4-hour, there you go. Tapped right at the mean on the 4-hour, 114.55, and then pulled back out of that. Now, where am I looking for support? Well, I could find support here, or in the middle of that wick where I am now. So 114.15 and 113.775. So what does that mean to me on the lower time frame? 114.15. Right there. 15 there. Or 113.775. There. Now, why is that? On the 4-hour, I have this wick right here. Okay, so the top side of where the body is, and the bottom side of this wick is what I'm looking at. So the bottom side of that wick, I'm looking for support. I might also find support off of the top of this wick here, which is the low or the high that we broke to get up here in the first place. So this is where I'm picking my key levels. I've got a nice area here where I could find some support, and this is my next area of bouncing around, as it were. So we've got now 3 down candles. We do have a small buyer's wick, but more selling on this candle than we did buyers trying to support it. And this is where we watch. Now, because I'm up at the mean here, I am going to shave one contract off. There's my one contract I took there at 2,800 bucks. I'm going to remove one of my stops, and that's how I manage my trade. Deal. Now I am again up here at the mean, so if this is going to continue to move up, great. This is now my runner. all too often I see these things come up to the mean of their overall move on higher time frame and then just completely melt down. So I don't want to be involved in a scenario like that. And if it's going to come down here and break this low, then chances are, if I don't get any support out of this area and it breaks and holds VWAP again, I might just be out of the trade. But for now, I'm going to stick around and move my stop up to the last low and support there. Now, am I going to let it come all the way down there and stop me out? No, of course not. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah. Buy, sell, buy, sell. No, buy, no, buy. All right. There's a little inkling of support there. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. So on this one trade, we're now up $2,300 or $2,800, I think. Let's see. Yep, $2,800 on that one trade right there. So far this morning, I've had $940, $600, $30. That was a stop out. These were sheds. $160, $30 stop out, $310. And then this one here, this was my entry, now running for 2 hours and 1 minute, 36 seconds. Entry at 111.37, sell off at 114.17. $2,800 on one micro contract. This is Tradeovate, which is my broker. Actually, I guess I did have one loss for $18.20. Bummer. That must have been... I don't know why it's saying that. History. Oh, with phase. Okay. But yeah. Too shabby. Most of that's from last night. I did a little bit of trading last night as well. And this is what it looks like here. So here is my buy position way down here. This is my sell position up here. That is Tradeovate. Yeah. Now we got multiple down candles failing to break and hold above key levels. And because I captured one, I can let the other one run and do what it wants to do. I'm not going to give up too much profitability, but I have less to worry about. Really don't want to see a break and hold below VWAP here again, because the more times it tests these areas, the more times it'll just break through. 73,000 likes now, everyone. That's incredible. You guys are killing it. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's a big candle to the downside. So this is showing me off of the mean of that overall move that we might be coming down and breaking these highs or breaking these lows to the downside. You can see that the 200 is now starting to wane down again. So if I'm not going to get support here off the mean or off the middle of the channel here, where I've got these support areas, then I'm not going to let it break down and come back to my stop. Okay, it's getting to be 8:45, which for those of you who have premium memberships, you're going to have access to the live Zoom with Coach and our millionaire mods. So make sure you get in there in the next couple of minutes and start learning with those guys. I'm sure they're going to be talking about pre-market numbers, news, and all the other pertinent information that you need to know to trade effectively. Real quick, for those of you that are new, please pop over to our free Discord. You can get it at American Dream Trading right on the website there. It's a giant button. I can show you real quick what that might look like. American Dream Trading. This great big yellow button right here. Okay, you can come in, hop into the free Discord access. It is totally free, and join the conversation over here in the Traders Lounge. You'll have access to the Traders Lounge and all of the other free areas that are available in our Discord for training videos, white papers, all kinds of support documents, everything that you would need to get your trading journey started. If you choose to do a membership, you can use my name, DOUG, as a discount. You can get 10% off your first payment, or if you do a lifetime, which are going away at the end of this month, in the next 3 days, actually, if you do a lifetime membership of any sort, you can get 10% off of that as well. The Diamond membership is being retired as of January 31st as well, and being replaced with the Platinum. The Platinum will be a monthly or annual membership, whereas the Diamond is with lifetime and includes all memberships created now and forever, along with the Trading View indicators, all of the different training that you get 7 days a week. We have live Zooms running from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. EST every single day. For our stock options folks, our futures group runs from 8:30 until 4 p.m. every single day that the market is open. And we also have gold breakout trainings for our VIP gold and diamond members every Tuesday and Thursday. Those are 1 hour small classroom type scenarios, basically one-on-ones with our moderators and coach when he pops in. Then you also have mentorship, which is available to our diamond memberships as well on Wednesdays, which is, again, a small classroom 1 hour session, typically ran by one of our moderators or coach when he pops in. After that, you've got Saturday training with David, who is our master EWO trainer, and he does a tremendous job in breaking down all of his trades. Everything that he does is 100% transparent. So if you have access to that chat and you have access to the gold training on Saturdays, he breaks down all of that live for you, detail by detail, just like what I was doing here with this silver trade. And speaking of the silver trade, there's our support bounce that I was expecting over here. Sometimes it's best not to watch it. So back to the Diamond membership, you also have access to Sunday training with me. I do Sunday live Zoom training for our Futures VIP and Diamond members, starting at 5 p.m. EST and running until 9. So we do an hour's worth of training. Then we do live market open and trade and train during that. And then as the market slows down, we do some targeted training for whatever our members want to talk about. So 10% off any membership right now using my name, DOUG, as the discount code. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate all the support you guys have gotten over on TikTok. Almost 80,000 views today and 50 watchers. That's incredible. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you to everyone over here on YouTube for the questions. Jerry, the Zoom, we've got 7 to 4 p.m. EST for the stock options, which premium memberships can, premium members can join that at 8:45, so 3 minutes ago. And then we have the futures live Zoom that we run from 8:30 until 4. And then I do a live Zoom on Sundays from 5 until 9. And then David does training in a live Zoom on Saturdays. So Diamond members have access to 7 days worth of training here at ADT. So again, thank you for joining. Thank you for the support over on TikTok. You guys are crushing it over there. I really appreciate that. And we will check you later. I'll update our members on what's going on with the trade as it moves on. But right now, we did sell at the mean pull here, one contract, and you can see that the last contract is right back up to $2,800 where I sold off the first one. So we'll see you again at some point. See you in the Zooms. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.